And next thing that I also wanted to point out is short-circuiting. So Python does not like wasting its resources. If it's going to compare two, or if it's going to have multiple expressions, once it evaluates the first one and it sees that it does not meet the criteria, it goes ahead and skips the second one. What do I mean by that? If I were to go ahead and say, let me write this query, say if A is equivalent to that, and let me say, or A is equivalent to 3, and you can print that. So this is an example of an OR operator. OR operator, you need at least one of them to be true for it to be true. So in Python, once it evaluates this first one, let me put them in parentheses so they're all clear. Once it evaluates this first one and it's true, it knows that the entire expression is going to be true. Python is going to go ahead and skip the rest of that and go ahead and print this already. Okay, so let's go ahead and try this out. If I execute it and type in 3, I shouldn't type in 3. That's fine. Let's go ahead and do 20. It's going to automatically not execute due to pending input. Oops, I was supposed to go ahead and press enter. It goes ahead and prints out 20. It doesn't really care about if A is 3 or not, because it's short-circuited in this case. It stops executing at this point in time when you have evaluated the first one and it's okay. Okay, so just take note. In some cases, you might want to have certain expressions in the front and other expressions in the back, depending on how you want to optimize your Python code. So those are sort of things that might be useful for you if you get into an interview case and they'll ask you how can you optimize your Python code. You can use short-circuiting. Okay, most people that will probably interviewing you might not be aware of it, and that will make you sound very smart. If you say, okay, the way I would like to optimize my Python code is to use short-circuiting so that all my sub expressions that are more vital should be executed first, or should be evaluated first before the other ones that are less predominant are evaluated, so that if it evaluates to true or false, I can carry on and save myself a few resources here and there. Okay, so that's what we get with short-circuiting, and we talked about nested as well as if-else statement or chained elif statements. Let's proceed. Next up is error handling. Like I said, when we're converting input, like we've seen in this case, we get an input from the user and then we use the int function to cast it. Sometimes we might get error messages. I've shown you a few of those error messages, like a traceback, maybe a value error. There are many different types of error messages we can get. In some cases, maybe you're trying to open a file, right? You can use Python to open a file in your folder. If the file is not there, it's going to give you an error message saying file not found. Maybe the file is there and you don't have permissions to even open it. So you want them to be able to say, hey, file is there, but you don't have permissions, and so on and so forth. So in that case, you use a try block. Okay, the try block actually contains code that has a potential to give you an error message. So you try that piece of code. If the error message comes up, then you have an except block. This except block shows the code that runs when that error or that condition happens. There are many different types of exceptions too. You want to be specific. For instance, a value error expression, file not found expression, a divide by 0, and so on and so forth. So when you find that, you want to give specific answers that will help the user or also help the programmer to be able to debug, to be able to find out where the error resides. In some cases, you might want to just raise an expression. So for instance, if you're checking the water value in a sewer, say you work with the waterworks department, if you're checking that value and you need it to be a particular value, once you check and that value is not met, you want to raise an expression and just say, hey, error. You want to make sure that there's water in the pot before you start boiling rice. Otherwise, you're just going to burn it. Okay. So a few of those examples, let me go ahead and demonstrate that to you. Let's go back to here. So if I went ahead and did execute this and type in ABC, I did get that error message, value error. The way I need to be able to fix that is by doing a try catch. How does a try catch work? I go ahead and do try in case of getting this value. Where is it? So the best thing I'll do here is I want to just that input. Yes, question. Yeah. Okay, yeah, sorry about that. I thought that was a question. So someone did have a comment that if there's no water, it's just fried rice. Okay, so I thought you still use water for fried rice. How is the rice going to boil if there's no water in it? You need some water at some point, right? Anyway.
Not sure. You can try that for Easter. I don't know.
You want me to burn down the house, man? Okay, so again, in this case, you want to be able to try this out. I think what I want to do then is maybe refactor my code. Let's say I'm going to call this user input. The user input should be equal to everything in here. So user input should hold everything that they enter, and then I can go ahead and convert my user input to an integer that way. Okay. So now this is the part that I really need to try out to make sure that they enter something good in there. So in order for me to do that, I'll use the try keyword, just like that. I try, I'm going to try this value out. Is everybody with me so far? Yep. Okay, so I'm trying that value. If the user does not input a number, then I can go ahead and do an except. Shouldn't add an extra line. Let me put everything concisely. Except I can go ahead and give them an error message. Print is, cannot spell, is enter a number. That should be all good. Okay, is everybody with me so far? So let's go ahead and try this out. Okay, so the last time I entered ABC and it gave me this nasty looking error. Now I've gone ahead and made my user input to be in a try catch block or try catch exception, being able to handle that error. Let me make this smaller so that we can see the whole code actually. There you go. So if I execute this, that's for value. I'm going to enter XYZ. Enter. I don't get that error anymore. It tells me please enter a number. And since that value is XYZA, is not yet assigned, if it checks this, it gives me that. Okay. So again, all of that has to be in there. For instance, I need to go ahead and probably get all of this to make sure that it does not execute and put it in here. I want to go ahead and tab that in there to look like that. So it's going to try this all out. And in this case, JJJ is going to tell me, please enter a number. But if I entered a good number like 26, tells me 26 is greater than 2. Looks good? Everybody okay so far? Questions, comments, concerns?